Hi everyone, my name is Charlene. We are now on lesson 5 and we will be learning about student diversity. For this lesson, we have 3 learning objectives. First is to identify the different factors that bring about student diversity and how it enriches the learning environment in the classroom. Second is to describe the different learning or thinking styles and multiple intelligences. And third is to differentiate between the categories of exceptionalities. Student diversity come from different factors such as the following. First is socioeconomic status, second is thinking or learning styles, and third is exceptionalities. So how does student diversity enrich the learning environment? First, learner self-awareness is enhanced by diversity. When students are able to see how they are different from the others, they are given reference points or comparative perspectives that sharpen assessment of their own attitudes, values, and behaviors. Second, student diversity contributes to cognitive development because it brings different points of view and varied approaches to the learning process. Third, student diversity prepares learners for their role responsible members of society because the classroom becomes a public place where community can be practiced. Fourth, student diversity can promote harmony, especially when students are encouraged to interact and collaborate with one another on learning tasks that emphasize the unity of effort while capitalizing on their diversity of backgrounds. Here are some tips on student diversity. First, you should encourage your learners to share their personal history and experiences. Second, you should integrate learning experiences and activities which promote students' multicultural and cross-cultural awareness. You can do this by encouraging your learners or even initiate co-curricular experiences that are aimed at promoting diversity awareness. Example, Disability Awareness Week, Linggo ng Wika, and United Nations Day. Third, aside from highlighting diversity, identify patterns of unity that transcend group differences. You can periodically place students in homogeneous groups on the basis of shared demographic profile, such as same gender groups or same race or ethnicity groups, and have them share their personal views and experiences with respect to course issues. Fourth is to communicate high expectations to students from all subgroups. Fifth is to use varied instructional methods to accommodate student diversity in learning styles. For example, you can diversify sensory or perceptual modalities in delivering present information, such as giving an oral presentation, diagramming, pictorial representation, and hands-on experiences. Sixth is to vary the examples you use to illustrate concepts in order to provide multiple contexts that are relevant to students from diverse backgrounds. You can have your students complete personal information cards and use this information to select examples or illustrations that are relevant to their personal interest. Seventh is to adapt to the students' diverse background and learning styles by allowing them personal choice and decision-making opportunities concerning what they will learn and how they will learn. Eighth is to diversify the methods of assessing and evaluating student learning. For example, instead of the traditional pen and paper assessment, you can ask them to do individual oral reports, panel representations, group projects, visual presentations, or dramatic vignettes. Let us move on to learning or thinking styles. It refers to the preferred way of a learner to process information. It describes a person's typical mode of thinking, remembering, or problem solving. The style is usually described as a personality dimension which influences your attitudes, values, and social interaction. The first category we have is the sensory preferences. First, we have the visual learners, and these learners must see their facilitator's actions and facial expression to fully understand the content of the lesson. During a lecture or classroom discussion, visual learners often prefer to take detailed notes to absorb the information. Now, there are two kinds of visual learners. We have the visual iconic, who prefers visual imagery, such as film, graphic displays, or pictures, and the visual symbolic, who prefers abstract symbolism, such as mathematical formulae and written words. Next, we have the auditory learners. These types of learners interpret the underlying meanings of speech through voice, pitch, speed, and other nuances. They learn best through verbal lectures, discussion, talking things through, and listening to what others have to say. There are two kinds of auditory learners. We have the listeners who prefers to listen to verbal instructions and the talkers who prefers to talk and discuss. Next, we have the tactile or kinesthetic learners. These learners benefit much from a hands-on approach and actively exploring the physical world around them. They tend to prefer learning by using psychomotor skills over abstract thinking skills. They have good motor memory and motor coordination. The second category is the global analytic continuum. Analytic thinkers, also known as the tree seers, tend toward the linear step-by-step process of learning. They see finite elements of patterns rather than the whole. They are more comfortable in a world of details and hierarchies of information. The other hand is the global thinkers, who are also known as the forest seers because they lean towards the nonlinear thought and see the whole pattern rather than the particle elements. They give attention only to the overall structure and sometimes ignore the details. The global analytic continuum is also tied to the left brain or right brain continuum. In Rogers-Berry's model, the left-brained or successive processor-dominant individual is portrayed as the linear, analytic, verbal, and mathematical thinker, while the right-brained or simultaneous processor person is someone who views as global, nonlinear, and has holistic preference. Let us move on to multiple intelligences. Howard Gardner defines intelligence as an ability or set of abilities that allows a person to solve a problem or fashion a product that is valued in one or more cultures. He believes that individual abilities come from different intelligences. A learner can be low in one domain area but high in another. All of us possess the intelligence, but in varying degrees of strengths. Howard Gardner's study indicates that there are 9 distinct forms of intelligences. First, we have the visual or spatial. This is learning visually and organizing ideas spatially. Then we have the verbal or linguistic. This is learning through the spoken and written word. We have the mathematical or logical, which is learning through reasoning and problem solving. Bodily or kinesthetic, which is learning through interaction with one's environment. This intelligence is the domain of learners who are overly active. Next, we have musical, which is learning through patterns, rhythms, and music. Intrapersonal is learning through feelings, values, and attitudes, while interpersonal is learning through interaction with others. The naturalist is learning through classification, categories, and hierarchies. Existential is learning by seeing the big picture and asking questions such as, why are we here? What is my role in the world? This intelligence seeks connection to real understanding and application of new learning. Let us move on to learners with exceptionalities. The terminology exceptional learners includes those with special needs related to cognitive abilities, behavior, social, functioning, physical and sensory impairments, emotional disturbances, and giftedness. Disability is defined as a measurable impairment of limitation that interferes with a person's ability, for example, to walk, lift, hear, or learn. Handicap is a disadvantage that occurs as a result of a disability or impairment. Specific or cognitive academic difficulties is the first category. This includes learning disabilities, and it involves difficulty in specific cognitive processes like perception, language, memory, or metacognition. Examples are dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. Next, we have ADHD, which is manifested in either difficulty in focusing and maintaining attention, recurrent hyperactive and impulse behavior, or both. Then we have speech and communication disorders. This is having a difficulty in spoken language, including voice disorders, inability to produce the sounds correctly, stuttering, and difficulty in spoken language comprehension that significantly hamper classroom performance. The second category is social or emotional and behavioral difficulties. We have autism, which is a condition manifested by different levels of impaired social interaction and communication. Repetitive behaviors are also observed and shows limited interest. Individuals with autism usually have an intense need for routine and predictable environment. Intellectual disabilities refers to significant sub-average intelligence and deficits in adaptive behavior. Individuals experience difficulty in managing activities of daily living and conducting themselves appropriately. Emotional or conduct disorders involves the presence of emotional states like depression and aggression over a considerable amount of time that they notably disturb learning and performance in school. Third category is physical disabilities and health impairments. Physical and health impairments involves physical or long-term medical conditions including one or more of these: limited energy and strength, reduced mental alertness, and little muscle control. Severe and multiple disabilities refers to the presence of two or more type of disabilities at a severe to profound condition. Sensory impairments, such as visual impairments, are conditions when there is a malfunction of the eyes or the optic nerves that prevent normal vision even with corrective lenses. This includes cataracts, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, and uncorrected refractive errors such as nearsightedness, farsightedness, and astigmatism. On the other hand, hearing impairments involve malfunction of the ear or auditory nerves that hinders perception of sounds within the frequency range of normal speech. Examples are conductive hearing loss, sensory neural hearing loss, and mixed hearing loss. The fifth category is giftedness. This involves high level of cognitive development. There is usually high ability or aptitude in one or more of these aspects: intellectual ability, aptitude in academic subjects, creativity, visual, and the performing arts. So that would be all for today. Thank you for listening. Remember that teaching is more than imparting knowledge, it is inspiring change. Learning is more than absorbing facts, it is acquiring understanding. This is according to William Arthur Ward. I'll see you in my next video. Have a nice day.